Hi guys and welcome to Bomb Anime.
It's your girl Bruca.
And Big Boy Summer here. Solo Leveling, episode 3. So I personally believe that Jinwoo Song is suffering from PTSD and he's constantly traumatized by big giant monsters that were attacking him and his friends and caused some devastating damage. And it's pretty evident every single time he comes up against something. He's constantly thinking about that one statue that almost cut him in half. Even when we saw towards the end that instead of focusing on the fight, he's focusing on the statue that caused him the most fear. So he's constantly thinking about the time where he almost lost his life in the most horrible way.
It's been 4 days, bro. Let him have his flashbacks. Like, what happened was pretty bad. I don't think we can categorize it as PTSD at this point because it's been 4 days. But yeah, it was horrific. Anyone would be having nightmares about it in their real life. Anyone would be thinking about it, especially because he's woken up. Not only did he wake up with his arm and his leg back in place with no explanation, but he also woke up with this system in his head. He's got a lot of cause to be flashing back to that demonic god because obviously that whole situation had something to do with the predicament he's in now. And not only that, the entire dungeon disappeared. No remnants of it whatsoever, as if it never existed. So anyone would be thinking back on what happened.
Yeah, but like, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have these flashbacks or PTSD. What I'm saying is that he should be focused in the fight at hand because that's what kept him alive. That's what made him survive. He knew he was going into Instance Dungeon. He knew that the system just doesn't play clearly and he needs to get his head in the game. Look, I get it. If it was me, I'd be a blubbering mess. And I'm not saying that I'm better than Jinwoo Song. I'm just saying that you're the MC, bruh. MC, innit? So, John Chil-woo is the manager of the Hunters Association surveillance team. And he's constantly, looking like the most taciturn, stern pencil pusher you've ever met in your life. And he always seems to have affection or outward emotion when he's talking to President Go of the Hunters Association, which is pretty cool. So him and Tae-shik Kang decide that they're going to go and visit Jinwoo Song and find out whether he's had a second awakening or not. And it turns out that Jinwoo hasn't, according to the manometer. But he's obviously still suspicious. It's a very suspicious amount of stuff happening around here. We've got a dungeon that disappeared, an E-rank hunter that has survived, where many hunters above his rank have been slaughtered and perished. You've got everyone who was involved saying the same story as to what happened, and yet, there's no evidence of it, as Ruka said earlier. It's a crazy mess, and even President Go is like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. And they're choking it up to, a random occurrence, I guess. A special case. And Jinwoo's in the center of it. He's in hospital, but every single day he's running around. I'm sure they don't know this, but that is suspicious as well, isn't it?
I would say that this Hunters Association surveillance team is not suspicious enough. Multiple people went into that dungeon, only 6 survived. One of them came out with no arm. He said that all of their statements corroborated each other. Everyone was in the room when Jinwoo got his leg chopped off, yet he has his limbs perfectly fine, yet the other guy who had his arm chopped off didn't. I really feel like them seeing whether he had a second awakening is the least of their worries when you're considering that so many strange things happened around this dungeon. I would expect a little bit more interrogation. What went on? What is your statement? Because they didn't even take his statement. They just said they'd taken other people's statement and the story corroborated, and had it not, they would have been looking at that team with the side eye. They really should still be looking at the team with the side eye, really, because corroborating stories does not make anything true. They could have gotten their stories straight inside the dungeon before they came out, with enough of a little bit of a variation for it to seem like it rang true, so that it's not the exact statement they're giving, but very similar statements.
Okay, so Ruka, then what would you do?
This ain't my job. No, okay. I'm just saying that I would be questioning him more. I would want to know how his limbs became whole, especially him being the last person in the room. Their statements would have said that there were statues that were gonna kill them and they all escaped by running. He's the only one there, so he's the one that should be dead. Also, his clothes were covered in rips and blood, yet he had no actual physical injuries. I would want to be taking him for further testing, even inside the hospital, to see what's going on with his body chemistry that can allow this to happen. Because when we watched the first episode, it had said something like 4 years ago or 3 years ago. And at that time, when we had the ants, everyone was extremely shocked that their normal weapons, guns and stuff did not work, which means that these events have only been happening for like the last 3 years. So that means that new things could be happening at any point. So if something so weird has happened, his body has clearly undergone something strange. They don't know what it is. We know what it is, but they don't exactly know what has happened. So I would expect more medical testing in a better facility that deals with mana and these types of things. All their technology is very new, and them even discovering these dungeons seems to be also very new. So I don't see why they wouldn't be doing further testing on him, further interrogation to find out what exactly happened. I mean, he has a system. He's an ordinary guy. If they pressed him, I'm pretty sure they would have been able to get something more out of him.
Like, yeah, by the way, guys, I've got a system and this is what it tells me to do. And if I don't do it, I end up in a room full of, I end up in the desert full of worms.
Well, he wouldn't know that. He didn't know that at that point.
No, true. But, like, at least they would know that a system exists.
Maybe.
Not likely. Oh Lord, so basically this system don't play. The moment that you don't do what it say, it decides that it's going to hurt you. And it doesn't just hurt you, oh no, it puts you through the ringer, mate. And so you will know next time you're going to do what the system says. It told you to do press-ups, sit-ups and squats, as well as run 10 kilometers. You didn't do that. So what it decided to do was chuck you into a desert full of worm monster things to chase you for 4 hours.
Why was this the penalty quest? This is the first time he hasn't done what it said. It was 100 press-ups, 100 sit-ups, and running 10 kilometers. And 100 squats. He's on the One Punch Man diet. Was this really deserving of not doing that quest? He had to survive for 4 entire hours.
Yes, it was. Look, I'm on the system side on this one. I gave you life. You could have been dead, but for me. I told you to do something and you decided not to do it. You are going to suffer and understand who's in charge here. Me, system, bad man, get me. Look, I'm on the system side here. I think the system's correct. It needs to shock him into actually doing some stuff. And this is why I'm probably a little bit more harsh on Jinwoo Song, especially being in the instant dungeon and whatnot. I feel that he needs to buck up or he's going to get bucked out. You get what I mean?
I think that this was quite harsh, especially considering how weak Jinwoo is. Hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. And if you want even more content, hit us up on Bum Anime Insta. It's the place to be.
So the system seems to be a little bit like, you know, in your run-of-the-mill system stories where the main character's got a cheat system somehow and they can become stronger as long as they follow the quests and the missions and fulfill whatever the system needs, which is great. This system, however, has the whole added element of punishments and rewards, which is also great. So you actually get the feeling of loss or gain from whatever you decide to do. And it will give you random things as well, which is weird in some ways, but I guess it's going to play later on. I'm not guessing, I know. But still, you get what I mean? It's like, it's one of them where it's a system that gives back and a system that has a bit of a personality. Sort of similar to Rimuru-sama's Sage skill, where it actually has a personality, but the system does it in checks and balances.
I get why you would say that, although I do think that has more of a personality than this. I wouldn't really say this has really a personality, but more a set of rules that it follows. and expects you to follow as
Yeah,
well.
oh.
It doesn't feel like it actually has personality in terms of it doesn't feel good or bad for you, regardless of the outcome. It just is. And this is an interesting system just because it does have the give and take of it. If you put in, you'll get out, and if you don't, your life might be at risk, but it does give you a good warning. So, you know, he did deserve a penalty, but I don't think he deserves such a penalty. How many people would really survive that penalty? Because it takes stamina, and I don't know how he actually passed it, considering how weak they've shown him to be through like all of the flashbacks and stuff. He shouldn't have survived.
Yeah, I agree. He shouldn't have survived. But Jinwoo Song in it. He's the MC. He's got plot armor. That's it.
So watching these last 3 episodes has kind of made me think about Jinwoo a little bit more than when I read the light novel, and it is a little bit different. I'm not gonna lie, the light novel and the anime setup is slightly different, and the characters kind of come across a little differently to me personally. But I'm just gonna go off of the anime. So he was talking about how people are so selfish, how the selfish people win in the first couple of episodes when he decided to sacrifice himself. But isn't his absolute incompetence selfish in itself? He doesn't do anything to try to be better for his team. He's just a drag. He doesn't train. You can tell from how hard it was for him to do his first setups, sit-ups, press-ups, and squats and all of that. How absolutely difficult it was for him to do. He has no stamina. Yes, you have powers, but you could have gone to the gym. Maybe he can't afford the gym, but he could have exercised at home like he's been exercising around the hospital. He hasn't done that. He could have borrowed money to get a better weapon instead of using that really crappy dagger that he knew didn't really do much. Because at least if he borrows it and he has a better weapon, he has a better chance of killing more things, meaning he would be able to pay it back. But he hasn't even done that either. It's like, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it feels as if he is going through the motions of acting like he tries, but he ultimately expects that he will die because of how weak he is, and he's just waiting for himself to die. And that's why it was so easy for him to sacrifice himself and be the last one in there, because really, he expects to die anyway. He's not putting any effort to keep himself alive, and it will be over. He has a pretty life. His mom's in hospital. He's keeping her life support on. His sister has a carefree ass life while he risks his life every single time he steps into the dungeon. His dad is gone. I mean, like, did you see Brush's shoes?
Wow, Ruka. Okay. I hear you. What you're saying isn't necessarily wrong, because I do get where you're coming from in this situation. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm dealing with the destruction of one of my favourite MCs here. Okay, look. You're right. He could have done a lot more than he was doing. But you have to understand that he lost both his parents quite early on, and he got placed with a lot of responsibilities. Not just himself, but his sister as well. He did the best he thought he could. But yes, he could have done more. But isn't that everybody? Can't everybody do better in everything that they're doing? Like, this guy is dealing with some horror stuff, bruv. Like, leave him alone, bruv. Leave Jinwoo alone, bruv. Stop picking on him.
With all due respect, everyone is going through a lot. So that doesn't explain why he couldn't do a couple sit-ups to increase his odds. It doesn't explain why he couldn't go running. It doesn't explain why he was such a drain on the healer. There's one healer in a group, and they're rare. They're always rare. Healers are. That healer is supposed to look after everyone in the dungeon. Also, the healer that they have is a much higher healer than the dungeon she's doing. And that's because she's afraid of high pressure situations, which means under no circumstances should she have wasted all of her mana to the point of collapse on one individual.
Okay, Ruki, you're right. And we're just going to have to carry on from here because I'm getting sad.
I'm sorry, but you know, it is.
Yeah, you said what you said. It is what it is. I'm not your friend anymore. That's it. Straight up. Right, so we're left off in the episode with him going into the instant dungeon, and he realizes it's basically his own pocket dimension where he's going to fight some bad guys and hopefully level up and he's fighting 3 goblins and started dupping up the goblins finally, and then got scared when he saw the wolf. As I said, you're the MC, bro. You need to MC up. When you started getting shaky legs and weak knees because of the wolf, I was thinking, come on, Jinwoo, what you doing, bruv? What you doing, bruv? Come on.
Personally, I actually like all the bad things that I've listed. Him being selfish, him being weak, him being a drain on the healer, all of that stuff. Because we're here at the very beginning, and it just means so much room for his actual character development and his growth. And I really do like watching a hero go from so weak to strong. It's one of the reasons why I love Naruto so much. Because
Absolutely.
of how weak he was, how awful he was in the beginning. Just a joke, really. And then fought so hard to become basically the strongest motherfucker in the building. Okay, you can debate it, but whatever. I said what I said.
I mean, Sakura boxing.
I'm gonna box you just for naming her. But back on to our main protagonist here, Jinwoo. I'm really liking it. It's part of what I'm enjoying because I can't wait to get to that point. The instant dungeon was crazy because he's never experienced an instant dungeon before. You could tell that it was a totally new concept. Even having a dungeon key was very weird and bizarre. He didn't know what he was going to get. And previously, he has had a lot of trouble with just goblins by himself. So it makes sense that he would be scared of the wolf. He could probably sense stronger mana coming from it. His reaction is very understandable on this one.
Okay, I agree his reaction is understandable. And I actually agree that the things that I didn't like hearing you say about him does actually help towards the character development. And we both do know that, you know, the system is more of a grinding stone than anything else. So we can see the movement forward. And so I just can't wait. Basically, I can't wait to see the next episode. I want to watch all of it and binge it all at once, but I'm doing this slow burn once a week thing. Come on, guys, do me a solid and give me like 3 episodes a week.
All right, so let's rate it.
For me, this episode was an 8 out of 10. Look, nothing really special happened here. We got more exposition than anything, and the story moved forward, but only slowly because this was necessary information to move forward.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm going to give this one the same rating as last week, which is a 7.5. It's a really good episode, but nothing really happened. However, we got a lot of information to do with the system and how it works, which I like. It's a 7.5. I can't really give it more than last week because last week was much better than this episode.
That's why you should have given last week's episode much better than, didn't it? 7.5 was horrible. Anyway, you know what?
It didn't deserve more than what I gave it. I stand by it. I stand by my rating.
Yeah, I know you do, and that's why you're tapped. You're tapped for this. You're tapped.
If you've made it this far, you're a real one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to get more of our episodes. See you on the next one. Peace.